we were right to not be worried about Juan Soto, and he's looked great over the last week. But he's in a pretty big hole statistically, and if we're not just going by ex-WOBA, and I don't know, are the Mets fans going to vote Juan Soto into the All-Star game?
Hello and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world. Who remembers that Smash Mouth performed All-Star before the 1999 Home Run Derby? I'm Jake Mintz. That's Jordan Shusterman. Hey now.
Can we run it back? I would love to see a 2025 rendition of that amazing song that everybody loves so much. On this Wednesday edition of Baseball Barbacast, we are going to talk about the All-Star Game, and that is because voting has been released. Voting has been opened. By the time you are listening to this, you can go on MLB.com and vote for your favorite baseball players to go to Atlanta in the middle of July. Will we have...
The irony here, there's a joke here about Atlanta voting laws and the All-Star Game. And if you're in line, stay in line and voting for the players. But I can't put it together.
Like the All-Star Game being back in Atlanta. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, we'll have that discussion closer to when we get there. But because the All-Star ballots are officially open, we wanted to take our earliest possible look at the starting All-Star lineups, compare and contrast who we would pick to start the Midsummer Classic. And that's going to be our first topic. We have a bunch of other stuff later on, but let's get into it because we have a lot of baseball players to talk about, Jake. And I will let you lead the charge here. We will go, I believe, one league at a time, position by position, and see where we disagree. Because normally when we have these conversations, we don't disagree very much, but we will at least identify some spots.
Can you still vote in person? Like with the ballots at stadiums?
Poking holes? I don't think so, which is kind of sad.
Sucks, dude.
That probably hasn't been true for a while.
Dude, sitting in a game with a pen, just bopping and booping. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most convenient or efficient way to do things for sure, but who cares? It was very satisfying. Like, I definitely do have very vivid memories of, scooping up a ballot and being like, all right, who are these players that I haven't heard of as I sit here at RFK Stadium and watch John Lannon carve up the Florida Marlins and think, should John Lannon be an All-Star? Anyway, we can't vote anymore IRL, but what we can do is use the internet machine and the Fangraphs leaderboards to determine who is most qualified to start this here special game that we care so deeply about. Jake, where would you like to begin?
I would like to begin with the American League, the visitors in this contest.
Oh, that's true.
The visiting club.
Managed by Aaron Boone.
And Aaron Boone, at designated hitter, will almost certainly have Rafael Devers, who I think... What a beautiful thing. Rafi Devers, All-Star DH. Don't think too hard about it. Just let it be happening.
So Devers has started multiple All-Star games at third, but the way that he's hitting right now, will he bring his glove? I know there was a little bit of drama. Again, it's all things Red Sox, that he was even seen wearing a glove earlier this week. But no, he is a DH and he is doing it quite well. As we mentioned, Aaron Boone, will he be making the case for his beloved Ben Rice? Perhaps, but it is not up to Aaron Boone. So as long as Rafael Devers wants to go to the All-Star game, which I believe he has also not participated in years past due to injury, I think he deserves to be the DH. There are some other good candidates that we can talk about, but I'm in on Rafi.
I love the idea of him traveling to Atlanta without a glove. I think that would be just the most badass move.
Pack light,
not
baby.
Even bringing a bag, just like a bat with his cleats like tied to the top of the bat, like he's a vagabond's straggler on a train to Yuma, and just getting on a Delta flight to Atlanta with the bat and the cleats, just rolling up, showing go and hitting.
Rafael Devers has a 153 WRC plus, which is the best mark of his career. this is someone who has had a very good career, and he is having. We are not just picking this for the narrative as much as that helps. He has been truly awesome, and a guy who is normally in the conversation here, in Yordan Alvarez, who we'll talk about later, has been injured and not awesome. So it's a little bit more of an open field for this position. So we can move on.
Speaking of career years, the starting catcher for the American League, unless he robs a bank, will be Cal Raleigh, who is currently putting up one of the greatest seasons of all time. By a catcher, he is slashing 259, 374, 625. 625. That is the second highest slugging percentage in the American League, behind only Aaron Judge. He is really straight up the second best hitter in the AL. And, oh, by the way, he is a very good defensive catcher. It's him. Behind him, like Carlos Narvaez and Dylan Dingler, I could see making the team as the reserve catcher. But
yeah,
it
Cal
will be
Raleigh. I mean, this is the thing. How many innings Cal Raleigh catches in the All-Star game? You probably said the over-under at like 3.5. So someone else is going to have to go with gear. But in terms of the starter, it will and should be Cal Raleigh.
First base for the American League is interesting. Yes. And it's now time to bring up the Ryan O'Hearn conversation, which is exactly what we thought we would be doing. So Ryan O'Hearn right now, by WRC Plus, is the third best hitter in the American League. Okay, that is backed up by his under-the-hood stats. The Orioles slugger has been sensational for the blah Baltimore squad this year. Now, if you go to O'Hearn's position, like what position does Ryan O'Hearn play? That is a complicated question because the answer is many. He has 24 starts at DH. He has 14 at first base, 13 in right, and 2 in left field. Because the ballot is not out when we're recording this, we don't know where O'Hearn is going to be. There's a chance he is slotted at DH. There's a chance he is slotted at first base. I think he should be the starting first baseman. Could be in the outfield.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
He also, I think more relevantly, instead of trying to figure out what position he's going to be at, might be the Orioles' only All-Star. And so there is a decent chance that he's just going to be on the team anyway. And whether he starts or not is relevant. Now, the voting will determine that, right? Because is Ryan O'Hearn going to get enough votes anyway? Whether even if the WRC Plus says he deserves it, feels unlikely. So I feel like he's going to be there. I guess the other question would be, what if he gets traded before then? Then you have a different issue. Probably not before the All-Star game, but he's at least someone being discussed in those conversations.
That we always make jokes about this, about the All-Star getting traded before the All-Star game. It's happened like once. It was like Jeff Samardzija. That was it.
Yeah, that's valid. Anyway, but my point is, he deserves to be there. I think he will be the only Oriole, or at least has a very strong case to be the only Oriole. And so because of that, where he ends up positionally. And as for this conversation, which is first base in the American League, I'm going Spencer Torkelson. I was between Tork and Paul Goldschmidt. I think Tork, has he been as good as either O'Hearn or Goldschmidt? I don't know. But it feels like he's taken enough of a leap forward, and he's been part of the team with the best record in baseball. And like, I'm in on Tork. So,
got it.
But I think Goldschmidt also absolutely deserves mention.
Now, none of the gentlemen whose names we just said will be the starter, in my opinion, because Vlad Guerrero Jr. will win the fan vote. Unless
the Yankees fans really ball out for Goldschmidt. No. I agree. I think it's most likely that Canada will show up for Vlad.
Well, it's not just Canada. It's that Vlad Jr. has
very popular,
so much name brand value, beyond Toronto, that if you're like a casual baseball fan and you don't have the stats in front of you, and you're like a Reds fan, and you're like, oh, AL first base. Oh, well, Vlad just signed a $500 million contract. Like, he's hit a lot of
and he's obviously having a good season. So I have no problem with that. Now, is he going to get more votes than Jonathan Aranda? We're going to find out.
Who can say?
But we'll see. That one's going to be close. But I think that's a fair point. It probably will be fun. I'll go
second base for the American League is Gleyber Torres by a mile. I mean, it's not really a conversation. Second base is sort of a weird spot right now in both leagues. Because it has sort of become this utility man way station. as far as everyday Keystone guys, it's Glaber, and then it's like Jackson Holiday, who's hit well and somehow sucks at defense, and Dylan Moore, who's really just a utility guy.
Yeah, and Brandon Lau is gonna probably be leading second baseman in homers and is having a decent season. And like, but again, I think Glaber's been awesome. And yeah, maybe Holiday, if Glaber, goes in the toilet for the next month and Holiday stays hot, maybe he plays his way into it. But I think Glaber is absolutely there as well.
Glaber made all-star teams in his first 2 seasons with the Yankees in 18 and 19, and then has not made it since then. And he's currently in the middle of what might end up being a career year. It's the second highest OPS plus of his career, and he looks somewhat rejuvenated. It must be the beard. Let's move on to shortstop, where there are a plethora of options, few of which I really expected maybe heading into the season. My starter for the All-Star game would be Jacob Wilson of the Sacramento Athletics.
Yeah. I mean, totally valid. He is leading in WRC plus. I think he is slightly behind my pick, which would be Jeremy Pena. But that's a coin flip for me. Again, when you go into the season, it's like, well, it's obviously going to be Bobby Witt Jr. or Gunnar Henderson. They're having good seasons. I think what Bobby Witt has been very good, but not MVP level. Now, he still might be, like, even right now, he's probably still top 5 or 6 MVP candidate. But I also think that it hasn't carried over to where he's playing like the best player in the world, which at times last year I was like, maybe this is him. Whereas Pena and Wilson, I mean, Pena as sort of this like re-breakout after kind of falling into more of an average level after his 2022 postseason. And then Jacob Wilson just bursting on the scene and doing a Luis Ariz impression with more power, right-handed playing shortstop, which is a hell of a combination. He never walks, he never strikes out. But when you consider that the fact that he already has 7 homers is amazing. I did not think he would get to 7 home runs this season, and that alone, it puts him in. So yeah, I'm fine with Wilson as pick. I'll go Pena because I just think he's been amazing and has been the Astros' best player. But Wilson's fine pick.
The other guy worth mentioning is Zach Neto, who has only played in 42 games, but has been outstanding in those 42 games, and I think will end up being the Angels' only representative. Let's move on to third base, where 3 weeks ago this would have been Alex Bregman, probably. Now it is Jose Ramirez.
Yep.
Again. Hell yeah, dude. What a gem. What a delight.
He just keeps on keeping on. Rinse, repeat. Where he ends up in MVP again, is he going to have just another top 4, top 5 finish? Top 2, I mean, he's behind Cal Raleigh right now, but he would have a case for third. He's amazing, and he is the answer. Him versus Bregman could have been a good debate, but that is not one that we need to have now.
Other names, Maikel Garcia in Kansas City has been outstanding, as is Isaac Paredes in Houston. And then Junior Caminero is starting to turn it on a little bit, and you could see a world where he gets in fuego over the next month and puts himself kind of in the mix for a reserve spot.
He's been really hot. The one thing I would also mention about Maikel is that he's also played a good amount of second base. I imagine he will qualify at third, but that's another one where, like, you could argue he's more deserving than Glaber or Jackson Holiday. I just don't know where people are going to be able to vote for him.
Outfield. Kind of a weird group here in the American League. I will be brave enough to say Aaron Judge.
Look at you.
Will make the All-Star team.
Okay.
If you go by wins above replacement for AL outfielders, it's so funny. Judge. What do you say?
Yeah, weird list.
Judge is currently at, by Fangraphs, 5.1. The number 2 person on this list is Byron Buxton at 2.1. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's not just an outfield thing. I mean, this is ahead of everybody in general.
All I'm saying is, by WAR, the outfield in the American League is like slightly down behind Judge. It's Buxton, O'Hearn, Julio, Stephen Kwan, Zach McKinstry, Lawrence Butler. So it's not exactly that, it's not a bunch of future Hall of Famers, in my opinion, besides Judge.
No.
I would go Aaron Judge in right, Byron Buxton in center, and Kerry Carpenter in left.
I think I'm going Riley Green over Kerry Carpenter because he is more of a real outfielder. and I think he's actually ahead of him in WRC plus anyway. I know it's close. And then Buxton is a weird one because he's been like an all-star talent for his whole life. He's only made one all-star game, and I don't believe he was the starter that year. So that's a fun one, and he has kind of held up his end of the Twins superstar. Like, hey, you're supposed to be one of the best players on earth. Like, this is our chance to be a relevant postseason team. He's done it. Correa has not. So I'm in on Buxton, but I'm going to go green here. Springer is another one to mention. I mean, what a season for him. He's someone that I was not expecting to ever make another all-star team, and he's absolutely going to be in the mix.
And then Trent Grisham has kept it going, and I think will probably be an all-star. And I could totally see the Yankee fan vote propelling him to the starting spot in center. The one other name worth mentioning is Lawrence Butler, who is from Atlanta and has been super vocal about wanting to be there this year. I think Jacob Wilson being so good kind of hurts him because it's the A's offense is good. The A's are not. And having two A's at the All-Star game feels silly. However, Butler has been pretty good. He has not been outstanding. He's been a lot better recently. He has 9 home runs with a slugging percentage around 470. The OPS is over 800. You could see a world in which he gets himself there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, coming into the year, it was like, Lawrence Butler or Brent Rooker, who has been okay, will be the A's All-Star. Jacob Wilson has just jumped way ahead of him and a lot of other people. So,
starting pitcher, I think it's got to be Skubal. If this is a showcase, we want the best pitcher on the planet starting the game. That is Tarek Skubal. With all due respect to Max Fried and Carlos Rodon and Hunter Brown and Eovaldi, Crochet, like, it should be Skubal. I don't think you disagree.
Nope. Skubal is the answer. So, I mean, now, again, a lot of other good candidates, but Skubal's the guy.
The teams that we have not yet given a player to, remember, everyone has to get at least one player. It is actually one of my favorite things in baseball because it gives every little young fan a chance to turn on Fox at 8 p.m. on July 14th and tune in to watch Joel Hanrahan in the 9th inning for a bad Pirates team. The teams that have not yet been repped, Tampa Bay, it'll be one or two of Jonathan Aranda, Drew Rasmussen, who's been unbelievable in their rotation.
Few pitchers to choose from, but he's been the best.
And then Pete Fairbanks, who has been one of the top closers in the league and is likely to get traded at the deadline after the game.
Sure. Let's get also, I mean, we're not having a Derby conversation yet, but Caminero would be another one. Like, let's get that guy in the Derby, please.
He will send a child to the hospital because he hits the ball on the ground too much. Now, in BP in a Derby setting, maybe that doesn't happen.
Hopefully he's elevating, but a lot of low liners. We're going to have to be careful there. So Rays have some options, right? Aranda, Caminero. The Blue Jays we mentioned, we think Vlad is in good position to get voted in. Springer would be absolutely deserving. Bo has been good recently, but seems unlikely. The Royals are interesting because, like, if Bobby Witt stays at this pace, I imagine that how the voting, like adding players works, the league would just send Bobby Witt before they send our
Bobby
friend
Witt
Bubich.
Jr. will be at the All-Star game.
Yeah, but Chris Bubich, in terms of just relative to his position, has been better than Bobby Witt Jr. Which again sounds kind of amazing, but it is true. Okay, let's talk about the bad teams because this is more compelling.
The White Sox, take your pick. Miguel Vargas, Shane Smith, Chase Mydroth. I'll go. I'm happy for all of them.
I think it's Smith. I mean, Chase Mydroth is one of my favorite players, but he's, slugging 348. So
sure, but he's been amazing. And I think if he does this for another month and kind of the overall counting stats catch up a little bit, it could be him.
He is playing shortstop and reaching base 37%.
Sure. I'm a little more skeptical on Vargas maintaining this level for another month. So I think Smith is probably the best bet. Let's go to the Angels where Zach Neto is a lock.
Yep.
Kikuchi's been pretty good. He's earning his money. Are they going to send 2 Angels? Probably not. Houston, Sneaky, tons of good options here between Paredes, Pena, Hunter Brown as a lock, and then I think one of Abreu or Josh Hader will get in as a reliever. They've been outstanding. And then the Rangers, who we thought were going to have this great offense, will not have a single offensive player, almost certainly. They will have, I would guess, at least 2 of the following 3 pitchers between Nathan Eovaldi, Tyler Mahle, and Jacob deGrom.
Yes. I think that's what a bizarre season for the Texas Rangers, but I am in agreement on all of those. Let's move to the National League. The designated hitter in the National League. 1 second. Let me crunch some numbers here.
Yeah, can you just take a look? Do you have the spreadsheet in front of you?
Okay, I'm seeing...
Can you text a couple GMs? Can you get some sources on the line?
Yeah, hold on. We're going to take a pause. We're going to take a kind of little temperature check of the league. I'm going to lean towards this Shohei Ohtani fella who has 23 home runs, 11 stolen bases, the highest WRC plus of all designated hitters. And I don't know much about his background, but like if I'm just looking at the numbers, and I don't know if anybody cares about him. I don't know if he like has a lot of fans. So like I don't know if he's going to get enough votes.
Yeah.
So this might be like kind of like a Jonathan Naranda situation. But if I am just stripping all of the outside noise and I'm just looking at who's earned it, give me Ohtani. Sorry, Kyle Schwarber.
And he runs a lot for a DH. I'm seeing.
Yeah, 11 stolen bases. It's a good amount of strikeouts, but you know what? I can overlook it.
I hear he's got a good arm. Behind Ohtani.
Well, why is he playing the outfield?
It's complicated.
Okay.
Schwarber, Ozuna, and Seiya Suzuki are the other names worth bringing up. I think maybe all 3 of them will be all-stars somehow on the DH, and they'll shoehorn one of them into the outfield.
They force Ozuna into the Braves, into the Atlanta All-Star game, maybe.
Yeah. Catcher behind the dish. It's Will Smith.
Yes, it is. Not the most exciting. I'm not even sure Will Smith is going to be excited to be going to the All-Star game again. But
if I had to pick a player to come up with an excuse not to go,
well, and honestly, I think the Dodgers will probably tell him not to go. Like, I just wrote about this last week. Like, the whole thing is how can we keep Will Smith healthy so that he doesn't fall off a cliff in the second half? And I imagine going to the All-Star game and catching even 3 innings in the middle of July in Atlanta is not going to be worth the time. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to be voted in as a starter. He has never started an All-Star game. Which is kind of interesting.
Added wrinkle here that makes me agree with that take. Dodgers finished the first half in San Francisco and start the second half in LA at home. And so it's like flying from San Francisco to Atlanta, Atlanta to LA. Will Smith, thank you for your service.
No chance.
It's okay.
Which is great.
No chance.
You know what? Let's do Drake Baldwin, man. Like, let's do something different.
If you open up the can of other NL catchers, it's a really fun, interesting group.
Really fun
Between
group.
Carson Kelly, who, by the way, saw the Cubs play the Nats last night. He's currently hitting 4th for the Cubs. Yeah. And I was like, I turned to Maddie Lee, friend of the show, Cubs writer. I was like, what is that? She's like, go look at his statistics. And I did. And he's pretty good.
But he's a great contrast because we all thought Carson Kelly was just generic backup for the last 10 years. He's been one of the best hitters of any catcher. And then you have these 2 young guns in Ivan Herrera in St. Louis and Drake Baldwin, who've just been terrific. You know, a rookie. I don't think Herrera is still rookie eligible, but Baldwin is just, I mean, he is the real deal. As high as I was on him, it's very simple. Like, they need to find a way to get him in the lineup. I don't know if that's going to mean giving him outfield reps. I don't know if that's going to mean DH if Ozuna has this injury that we'll talk about in a little bit, but he's so great. And what a find, what a pick, what a development story for Drake Baldwin. So it'd be cool. It'd be cool for him to start the game.
Now, part of the reason Will Smith can say thanks but no thanks to the All-Star game is that the LA Dodgers are going to have ample representatives.
Also, Dave Roberts is managing. He's not gonna make Will Smith start.
No,
there's no way.
Yeah.
He'll have everybody else there. He's like, Will, don't bother. First base, Freddie
First
Freeman.
base will be Freddie Freeman. Now, there are Pete Alonso, Michael Busch, even Bryce Harper, who has been awesome since he got back. That's not what I meant. He homered in his first at bat after coming back yesterday, but he's been
that counts. Better. It just seems hasn't been back for very long.
It's just not really what I meant. It'll be Freddie Freeman. He has been the second best hitter in the world this year, behind Aaron Judge, somehow finding a new level in the middle of his 30s. It'll be him coming back to Atlanta, which will be very cool. Place where he played for a long time. Something I've been thinking a lot about is just like Freddie Freeman. There's no way to quantify this. Does he mean the most to two separate fan bases and franchises of like maybe any player in baseball history? How many Hall of Famers have rings at their peak in two different places?
That's an interesting question. I would probably not gloss over a very long baseball history that has many players that won multiple World Series for multiple teams. But yes, right now, in the moment that we are watching and what we have experienced doing this for a living, yes, Freddie Freeman is very high on that list. I agree.
Behind him, Michael Busch, Pete Alonso, Brett Harper. I think Pete will definitely be there because he has to do the Derby because he loves it. Anyone else?
Rhys Hoskins. Brewers, will he be the Brewers rep? We can move to second base now and mention Bryce Terang, whose case is basically entirely defense-based, although he's been an above-average hitter this year. But has he been the best second baseman in the National League? I don't think so. Brendan Donovan has been terrific.
Brendan Donovan is so good, dude. He rules.
The one thing about Brendan Donovan that I'm interested in is like he has been known more as like a utility guy. In fact, last year he played more left field than second base. This year, he's still playing some outfield. He's even played 6 games at shortstop this season, but it's mostly second base. And I mean, what he's doing offensively, he's the answer.
At shortstop, Francisco Lindor has somehow never made an All-Star game as a Met. That will end this year. He should be the starter there.
People were mad last year.
Yeah,
and they were right. We only got better after that point. But that was, people were not very happy about that.
Behind him, Geraldo Perdomo in Arizona will be there. CJ Abrams of the Washington Nationals will be there. Trey Turner has kind of
been great.
Figured it out offensively. His defense. And then Mookie is an interesting conversation of like, will he be there? My guess would be, even if he does get in, he and Will Smith will be on the flight from San Francisco to LA together. Elsewhere.
Yeah.
No chance.
Whether they'll be together or not, they will probably not be making this trip, I would imagine. And just quickly on Lindor, like, I'll be honest, I haven't felt like he's been at the same level as last year. And then you look up and he actually has a higher WRC plus than he did last year. The underlying stuff isn't quite as good. It's still amazing when you consider he's an amazing shortstop defender. This is not taking anything away from him. But I haven't felt like I've been watching the version of him that was doing it, over down the stretch last year. But he basically has been just as good, which is amazing.
I have felt that watching him in person. Like there are moments where, runner on second, 2 outs, and you're just like, oh, well, Lindor is going to, find a hole and rip a single and give the Mets a lead. Third base, kind of a coin flip here between Matt Chapman and Manny Machado. What year is it? 2019? I will lean Machado because I am impressed that he has kind of raged against time here. I was low on Manny coming into the season. I thought the decline phase had kind of started and the Padres were staring down the barrel of what could be a really ugly contract. He has looked awesome. He has been hitting the ball really well, and I would go with Manny, but you could totally go with Chapman, no problem at
all. I mean, they still might be looking at a terrible contract because of what the contract is, but I agree. I was also kind of feeling like he was heading in the wrong direction. I think this is just a reminder that he is a generational talent. He is also in the very small short list of most talented, most gifted players of the 21st century. And while, he hasn't quite, remember, him and Harper are connected forever for a lot of reasons. And he's really lived up to it. And I think, especially over the last month where Tatis has kind of cooled off, Machado he's been just their best player. So I definitely go Machado here, but, Chapman's awesome too. And, the defense is great there.
Outfield, very fun group. My opinion, James Wood, Pete Crow Armstrong, Corbin Carroll.
Yeah. This is pretty easy, I think, at this stage. Not that there aren't other strong candidates. You mentioned Tatis, O'Neal Cruz. Will O'Neal Cruz get in if Skeens is the Pirates All-Star? Will O'Neal Cruz also make it? Is an interesting conversation. Jung-Hoo Lee, his start. Jackson Merrill, of course, missed the time. He's been awesome, but is he going to play enough? Maybe by the time the All-Star game gets here, he's obviously there. But right now, I think Wood, PCA, and Carroll is the answer in terms of, Arizona has a couple offensive candidates. We didn't even mention Ketel Marte. I know he missed time too, but he's also been awesome, and he could still end up starting at second base. But I think these three are the answer right now. Kyle Tucker, the fact that PCA has, not that Tucker's been awesome too. And then the other funny thing, which is like a different version of the Mookie conversation, is like Juan Soto. So we were right to not be worried about Juan Soto, and he's looked great over the last week. But he's in a pretty big hole statistically. And if we're not just going by ex-WOBA, and I don't know, are the Mets fans going to vote Juan Soto into the All-Star game?
Yeah.
It sounds like a ridiculous question, but I'm curious. I think that'll be a fun thing to watch over the next month. But this is also we're still far enough way out of it that it might be so obvious by the time we get there.
Sure.
But yeah.
If I had to guess, I think Soto gets in over Wood in the outfield spot on fan voting. Wood has been so much better than Soto
for the story. Come on, narrative ball. We gotta have James Wood in over Soto. That's like the whole thing.
I watched PCA hit a double last night off of Trevor Williams. So
yeah, PCA, he'll have the Cubs fans behind him. Corbin Carroll's an interesting one because he definitely has more name value than James Wood does yet. But James Wood, he's going to be pretty tough to deny at this point. So
Corbin has 18 homers. The only NL dudes with more are Ohtani and Schwarber. What a freak.
No, I know, which is right. Wood has 16, 17. So yeah, no, it's true.
One other name I want to bring up is Andy Pages. I know that maybe is a little silly, but he's been so good and feels like a Dodger that the Dodgers would let go to the game.
Well, they would, sure, but unless he's getting voted in, which is maybe possible, all it takes is Shohei Ohtani to say vote for Andy Pages, and you might have all of Japan, voting for Andy Pages. I don't know. He's been awesome. He's kind of saved their ass in a lot of ways. He was not someone we were really counting on. But
you saying Shohei is Joe Rogan?
Maybe is it that simple? I trust his endorsement a lot more. Anyway, a lot of good candidates here. Right now I'd go Wood, PCA, Carroll. And that's another one where James Wood isn't necessarily the only national. Mackenzie Gore's going to have a strong case. CJ Abrams is going to have a strong case, but James Wood has the best case right now to be the national there. So we'll see.
Starting pitcher, Paul Skeens again. Run it back. Who says no?
Maybe Paul Skeens, but I assume he would take the ball again.
Paul Skeens says yes a lot.
Yeah. More than you would imagine for someone in this situation. Yeah. Paul
Skeens said yes to America.
True. And
then Paul Skeens said yes to being in GQ. And
That's
so
true.
I think Paul Skeens will say yes to starting the All-Star game again.
He will say yes to. Now, again, this is another one. Does Dave Roberts pick Paul Skeens over Yoshinobu Yamamoto?
Yes, because he does not want Yamamoto throwing any more than he needs him to.
There you go. That was a trick question. But, Yamamoto deserves to be there, and he will be pitching in the game probably at some point, but maybe not. If you're the Dodgers, you really not exactly in the business of risking any more pitching injuries. So we'll see.
Dave Roberts is going to call on Justin Robleski to start the All-Star game. All right, teams that have not received a starter.
Kasparius opener.
Teams that have not gotten a starter yet, Philly. They'll have Schwarber.
Yep.
They'll have Wheeler. They'll have Luzardo. Those three are locks. Harper could be there. Turner could be there. Whatever. Miami.
This is an interesting one.
Who I'm freaking pissed at right now after they lost the series already to the Colorado Rockies.
Oh, yes. That's why I'm wearing my Rockies hat. More on that in a second.
This will be Kyle Stowers, who was traded there by the Orioles last year.
Oh, is that where he came from?
Yeah, I think that's where they picked him up from. Other dudes maybe to shout out, Dane Myers missed some time, but he kind of rakes. And then Liam Hicks, friend of the program, with a 124 OPS plus behind the plate for the Marlins.
Dude, Can you imagine if we have, and that's another one where like, if they can't find other catchers to do it. Now, we mentioned there's plenty of other National League catchers to pick, but, could we have multiple Rule 5 picks if Liam Hicks and Shane Smith both end up in the All-Star game? That would be ridiculous. But anyway, I think Stowers is the answer for Miami.
One last name to mention for Miami, Jordan, who's my favorite player in baseball?
He's not getting to 200 innings, but he's been pretty good. And that's Valente Veloso. He's cooking, but again, 31 innings, so I don't think that's going to happen. Let's do the Reds, Brewers, and Giants, and then we got to talk about the Rockies All-Star. Reds have several solid candidates, especially on the mound. Andrew Abbott's been amazing. Hunter Green, of course, has been great. Has dealt with some injuries, but is still a good candidate. And then Ellie is another interesting one. I mean, Ellie's like a version. I mean, he's a tick below what Bobby Witt Jr.'s been this year. Like, hasn't been a bad season, but it hasn't been the step forward that a lot of us hoped. So I'm not super sure that Ellie will be there. It's one where you would hope he would be, just because he is a very important, fun player that is fun to have around a game like this, but I'm not sure he will be there.
For the Brewers, I'll go Freddie Peralta on the mound, and I think they'll get one of Hoskins or Turang. It's kind of a toss-up there. Giants, Matt Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, Robbie Ray, and Logan Webb. Logan Webb has elevated somehow. He's so great, dude. He's basically mixed Ryan Yarborough with Yamamoto. It's like,
so he's finished 11th, 2nd, and 6th in the Cy Young each of the last 3 years. I would imagine right now, and he's led the league in innings the last 2 seasons and is in a good position to do it again. But no, I agree with you. He's the answer. I mean, he's been the best player on the Giants, but there are a couple candidates there.
Rockies. The Rockies on a W2. Read it and weep. That's when you win one game, and then the next time you play a game, you also win that game. It is the second time this year that the Rockies have picked up a WT. The only other time they did it, they won the last game of a series and the first game of a series, so they didn't actually win a series. Last night, they beat the Marlins 3-2. They hang on. Seth Halverson, who I believe, there was a great nickname for him that I did not know. That I'm now forgetting.
We actually have to talk about the end of this game. So Seth Halverson, who's just up there throwing 102 miles an hour. And if you tune in and you're like, oh, you got to check out this worst team of all time. And then you see Seth Halverson pitching and you're like, where is baseball now that even the worst teams of all time have guys like Seth Halverson just chucking it? But I don't know if you were watching this live. There was a sequence. I don't know if you had the Rockies broadcast on. This was so funny. So he's, last out, Heriberto Hernandez comes into pinch hit and he's blowing 100 by him, right? The first 2 pitches. And the color guy for Colorado, I think is Jeff Houston. He's like, he's not on the fastball. Like, you got to keep the gas on. Do not speed up his bat. Do not throw him an off-speed pitch. And Seth Halverson just hangs a breaking ball. And it's like, God, Rocky's like, how are we? It was like, he's like, you're throwing 102. Just keep throwing 102. And it's like, boom, perfect cookie, cement mixer breaking ball. Hernandez crushes it to center field. And Brenton Doyle makes one hell of a catch. I believe this ball had like a 900 expected batting average. And Doyle saves their ass. And the Rockies win their first series since last September, snapping a 22 series losing streak.
The Rockies tweeting a video of Halverson picking up the save with the caption, "The fridge shuts the door." So that is, I guess, his nickname. The fridge? We're calling Halverson the fridge. If you're a Rockies fan and you know why he's named the fridge, let us know.
More importantly, is Seth Halverson the Rockies All-Star? I mean, he looks like, when you watch him, it's like I would enjoy watching Seth Halverson the most in the All-Star game, with respect to Jake Bird, who is the most deserving reliever on this team, with respect to Jordan Beck and Hunter Goodman, who are having nice seasons. Halverson has the most All-Star energy, but I think it will be Jake Bird. But who knows? That's an all-timer, though. If Jake Bird is an All-Star.
I don't really care.
Okay. Well, then I guess this segment is over. Those are our All-Star teams. And yes, I am wearing a Rockies hat today. A Rockies hat I haven't worn in probably 10 years. But I used to wear this hat a lot when I was like in high school because I just thought it was cool colors.
Jordan, you're my All-Star brother.
Aw, thanks, man. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, we stay in Atlanta. Ooh. and talk about the weirdo Atlanta Braves. We'll be right back on Baseball Barbacast.
And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. The Atlanta Braves are weird, huh?
The Braves have consistently been, I've been doing the power rankings for Yahoo every few weeks. I did it last season, did it this season. And the Braves have been, since the very beginning of the season when they, started 0-7 or whatever, the hardest team to rank. And this was really the first week where I was like, you know what? They just might not be that good. And I'm still looking at the talent on this team and thinking that there is enough here to make a run at a postseason spot. But at 27-32, and just some weird stuff going on up and down the roster and on the coaching staff, which we can get into, I'm not saying they're doomed. There's still upside on this team, but this is a pretty large sample of just not awesome play and a lot of things that are not going as well as I think we hoped.
Here are the teams that have worse records than the Braves in the NL. Ready? Rockies, Marlins, Pirates. That's it.
No, surely there's more teams that have worse records in the National League than the team that does have Spencer Strider back, that does have Ronald Acuna back, that does have Spencer Schwellenbach and Chris Sale pitching well, that does have Drake Baldwin, one of the best rookies in baseball, that does have Austin Riley and Matt Olson playing every game, and Ozuna has, still slugging. And no, what's going on?
Here's the deal. Let's go back to 2023. 2023 Braves, God level offense. All time. The career years from Olson, Riley, everybody. Acuna,
307 home runs.
They were unbelievable, right? They get bounced in the NLDS. They come back in 2024, and they're super hurt. And they make the playoffs anyway because their pitching staff is incredible. But so much of the 2024 Braves was kind of uninteresting to me because the narrative around them was all their good players got hurt for significant periods of time. So they only won, I believe, 89 or 90 games. And it's like, okay.
89.
Heading into 2025, Ronald will be back at some point through the year. Everyone looks healthy heading into camp. The pitching and the hitting are going to come together and have this all, kind of a bounce back season. And they've generally stayed healthy. Ronald came back a couple of weeks ago. He is not yet playing every day. He's been amazing. And yet the Braves just feel stuck in neutral. Here's a TLDR overview as to why. Ozuna, Olson, and Riley have all been good versions of themselves. Ozuna, I would say, is the best of the three. He has a hip injury right now that he's just kind of playing through. But him clogging up the DH spot, even though he's the best hitter, is significant on this team because, one, Acuna coming back from ACL surgery could really use some DH days. And two of their three best hitters are both catchers, and that is Sean Murphy and Drake Baldwin, who only one of them could be in the lineup at a time, right? And then you have Michael Harris II and Ozzie Albies, who are both having significantly substandard seasons. They have been straight up blah. Harris remains an elite defender in center field, but his bat has just kind of backed up to a point that people were afraid of when he was coming up the chain. He's still a good player, but he's not a game-changing offensive force. And then all the secondary pieces kind of beyond all the famous guys, whether that's Verdugo or like Eli White, Nick Allen is a good defensive shortstop, but boy, he can't hit. None of those guys have been great. Jared Kelenic is playing for the Gwinnett Stripers. That's not the plan. And Ronald isn't playing every day, and so he hasn't been able to kind of rejuvenate the offense as much as people maybe expected. I think that will happen. As he gets healthier, we're just going to have full regular Ronald Acuna. He looks amazing. That's not a concern for me, and maybe that is enough. And then on the mound, so let's compare it to last year, right? Charlie Morton gone. You can laugh about that, but he was solid still, right? Chris Sale, not elite this year. Simply very good. Probably still an all-star. Not elite. Okay.
Not elite, but he has turned it on. He hasn't been the best pitcher in the league, but I would not pin much of this on Sale really at all.
Oh, no. Schwellenbach is like a hamster on a wheel right now, or like a guy on a treadmill with a donut right in front of him. It's right there, man. Like, it just feels like you watch him good and it's like, that's a top 5 pitcher in the league. And then you look at the numbers and it's like, it's not
almost
quite there.
He's really good. He's really good. Yeah.
Again, he's only been pitching full time for like 4 years. And so next year, a lot of people thought it would be this year. Maybe he turns it on the second half. Might just be next year for Spencer Schwellenbach. But then behind those two guys, like AJ Smith-Shawver looked good, but his elbow went kablooey and he's out for the year. Bryce Elder and Grant Holmes are fine. Reynaldo Lopez is out for most of the season. They miss him big time. And then Strider, who came back, his stuff is way down and is just doesn't look like the same pitcher and is going to have to make some sort of adjustments until the stuff comes back.
Yeah.
And then in the bullpen, it's better than you think besides Raisel Iglesias, who generally has been unlucky, but also worse than we're used to. And it all just makes this team that's fine.
Yeah. And they still have, a positive run differential, but I think, you summarized it pretty well. I think Iglesias not being, whether he's been unlucky or not, he was one of the best relievers in baseball last year. That has been not anywhere close to the case this year. And then Reynaldo Lopez was unbelievable last year. He was one of the best, I know not in a full sample, but what he was giving them in the starts that he made was incredible. And then, Max Fried's not around anymore, as people know. So Reynaldo had a 1.99.
He was awesome
in 25 starts. So enough has gone in the other direction to where we know they barely got in last year. Not that 89 wins is a bad season, but a lot had to go right at the very end for them to even sneak in. At this point, that margin for error just doesn't exist. The Mets are too good. The Phillies are too good. And honestly, the National League in general is probably too good for them to afford to keep playing like this for much longer. As we mentioned, standings-wise, they are a half game behind the Washington Nationals, 10 games behind the Mets, 9.5 behind the Phillies. And if you go to the wild card, which I literally haven't looked at maybe at all this season, they are 5.5 out of the last wild card spot behind 6 teams, or 5 teams. So again, other weird stuff happening there. They fired their third base coach.
Let's talk about this. This is awesome. Okay.
Yeah, this is the last thing we have
someone
to hit
lost
on
their job.
Atlanta.
I cannot remember the last time this happened. Matt Tuiasosopo, who was coaching third base, was essentially so bad at coaching third base that they got rid of him. He has been reassigned to like minor league development stuff.
But he's like off the major league coaching staff. I feel like there has been changes to the base coaches in season, but normally that guy's still around.
Very few of the base coaches in the big leagues are there because they're good at being a base coach. It is a skill at third base. It is important, yes. However, it's usually just a body who's good at coaching, who they want to have around, who works with the infielders or works with the outfielders or does base running or whatever. And then they also coach third base, right?
Right.
But Tuiasosopo apparently over the last couple of weeks was just so abysmal at knowing when to send or not send guys that he got freaking demoted and replaced with Freddie Gonzalez. Freddie Gonzalez, who was the bench coach in Baltimore for the last few seasons, who spent this season evaluating umpires and coaching Division III baseball at Ursinus College in, I would say, ex-Bourbon, Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Freddie Gonzalez, who was the manager, or excuse me, let me back up. He was Bobby Cox's third base coach in like 2003 to 2006, which was the last time he coached third base, I believe. And yet you have Brian Snitker and Alex Anthopoulos being like, this is a guy who knows how to coach third base. It's like, well, maybe that's true. Game has changed a little bit since 2006. We'll see if he still has feel for those arms. So he's Bobby Cox's third base coach. Then he becomes the manager of the Marlins for a bit, wins manager of the year, then becomes manager of the Braves after Bobby Cox. Okay. Brian Snitker is Freddie Gonzalez's third base coach. And now the roles have been reversed. Freddie Gonzalez gets fired. Snitker takes over. Freddie goes away. Snitker now the head guy. So we'll see if Freddie knows how to send him or not.
Yeah. I am curious, like, I mean, the fact that he was like a volunteer assistant at Ursinus is just like mind blowing, like weeks ago. Right. I mean, it's not like he was doing this and had been away for a few years. Like this was happening. We know it was already strange when we heard about that. I know our friend Alex Coffey wrote a story about this. Um, but the fact that he couldn't get another gig coming into the season, whether he wants it to or not, is
The
interesting.
last time he was in the dugout was a 6-2 loss to number 2 overall Johns Hopkins on April 27th that moved Ursinus College to 20-20 on the year.
I don't know if he was coaching third for Ursinus. I assume not, but maybe. I'm not sure how many coaches they have. Kyle Lindsay, their head baseball coach. Oh, I know Kyle. Kyle's a good dude.
Kyle, let us know. Did you have Freddie at third waving him around?
I do think we should reach out to Kyle Lindsay about this, he played it at at Misericordia. So that's someone that you should be very familiar with. I don't know if they were teaching the hit by pitches at Ursinus. Anyway, total tangent. The point is, this is very strange a very unusual sequence to happen. And also just bigger picture for Atlanta, just the way Alex Anthopoulos operates. This really is what is most interesting to me. The Braves, for the most part, move in silence, make a lot of aggressive moves. How do they view this season over the next month? Is this a situation where Alex Anthopoulos says, F it, like we're going for this anyway? And I don't know what that looks like because, again, still not a great farm system, but they find a way. They find ways to make trades. They find ways to acquire players similar to the Astros. How do they view themselves? We still have a long way before they have to decide that, but they probably need to start playing better soon.
They have already decided. They would have to fall off a cliff for Anthopoulos to do anything resembling sell.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to do? I'm not sure. But the magic of 2021, when the Braves were under 500 and Acuna was hurt and Anthopoulos went out and refashioned his outfield at the deadline, acquiring Duvall and Jock Peterson and Eddie Rosario, and then the Braves go on this miracle run and win the World Series. That experience has created this sort of like a golden shadow for Anthopoulos that has, I don't want to say clouded his judgment, but it certainly has impacted the way that he goes about deadlines because he has this experience that just reinforces his belief system of, oh, well, if we're in the mix, like a good couple months, like we'll get right back in it like it's happened before. Go look at his quotes. He spoke to the media earlier this week, and I think Dave O'Brien wrote about it at The Athletic, and Mark Bowman wrote about it at ESPN, at MLB.com. He just brings up 2021 all the time unprompted, Anthopoulos, in a way that is very unique for GMs. We'll be like, well, remember back in 2021, like, it's like, I know, like, it is a relevant data point. I understand. And I know that you're trying to sell the fan base in a way like, hey, remember how angry you were in July or June of that year? Well, we won the World Series.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fair, but it's also a little dangerous.
I agree. And I think trade deadline or not, I agree. I'm not trying to suggest that they're going to be in any position to sell or want to do that. But I will say that the argument for them is that there is still upside in front of them. There is still a version where Spencer Strider does start to shake off the rust, starts to look like a good pitcher again, that Acuna is playing every day and looks like one of the best players in baseball. Like, there are still... Now, does that solve Ozzy Albies being this bad? Does that solve Michael Harris not being able to hit? Maybe not. And maybe some of the things that are going well start to regress. But like we said, there's still a lot of high-end talent here. It's just that they've dug themselves a hole in a way that other teams with a lot of talent haven't, right? I guess Boston is the parallel in the American League. Who are you feeling better about right now, Atlanta or Boston? I think that is a very interesting debate that we don't have to have now because we have other topics we're going to get to. But those are the teams that we're kind of looking at in terms of like, now, Atlanta had a lot more credibility because they've won a lot more in recent years than Boston. But if you're just talking about top end talent and what the best version of the team looks like, you can still make a case for Boston, just as you can still make a case for Atlanta. They are both in basically the same hole. Right. I mean, we're looking at the same. Now, what that means in the AL versus the NL is different. But those are the teams that I'm going to kind of start to group together in that sense. And Texas a little bit is the same thing, but I think they're
No.
slightly different. I think Boston is kind of the better American League parallel. So
Yeah,
anyway.
you have this badass starting pitcher who throws with his left hand, who used to play for the White Sox. And you have an offense with tons of talent that just feels like it slept through its alarm.
Yeah.
Where if you rearrange the pieces, it's like no, like the Baldwin Murphy thing is significant. You're not playing your third best hitter every day.
Right. And it's a version of the Roman Anthony thing. It's like, how does this fit? It's good that you have Drake Baldwin, but like, how are you making this work?
Sure. It's better than not having Drake Baldwin.
Of course. So anyway, and now, of course, Cora and Snitker are viewed very differently. There's a lot of differences, but I do think that those teams I'm thinking about them in the same way as we head towards the deadline, as we think about, can they dig their way out of it? Are we looking at the roster and saying, how are you this bad? What is going on? Kind of similar.
All right, let's take a break. When we get back, I will punch a wall, break my hand, and add myself to the injured list. And welcome back to the end of Baseball Barbacast. The only thing worse than hurt feelings is a hurt elbow.
I think worse feelings are probably worse than hurt elbows in certain cases.
As someone who's had both his elbow and his feelings hurt.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I don't want to speak on it. So you let me know what has been more devastating, the elbow pain or just like life.
I just can't remember the last time that someone hurt my feelings. Like it's such
as
like
much as you hurt your elbow.
Yeah, like I think I hurt my elbow. My elbow has been hurt more recently than my feelings.
No,
okay. I don't.
Fair enough.
Like Jordan, just think for a second. Like when's the last time someone hurt your feelings?
Mm.
A lot of Rizzo hurt my feelings. A lot of Rizzo hurt my feelings.
That's true. Fortunately, you had a lot.
And
of
that was after
there.
That was after I got Tommy John. So hurt feelings for me more recent than hurt elbow.
Yeah,
although my elbow hurts all the time.
I was
going to
say the rehab from that incident, I think, has been way more positive than the rehab from your elbow injury.
Absolutely. I don't wake up every morning and have to like crack and stretch my feelings.
No. Anyway, let's talk about some injuries, and then we're going to talk about some college sports, and then we're going to say goodbye. One significant storyline of this season that has kind of bubbled up to the mainstream this week is what is going on with Yordan Alvarez, which is that he has a broken hand. And it was not obvious to the public that he had a broken hand until he has essentially slowly been working his way back. And they had said he has like a strain in his hand to the point where everyone was like, how bad could that be? Yordan Alvarez, like, get back out there and be one of the best hitters on earth. He wasn't looking like that. He went on the injured list, and then he tried to have a live BP session that did not go well. And then was like, yeah, my hand is fractured. So this seems to be a failing of communication for many parties involved. And our friends over at the Crush City Territory podcast, Chandler Rome and old friend Tyler Stafford, who I enjoyed a long conversation with on the phone yesterday. They cover this very well about how they've kind of communicated this injury. But the most important thing is like Yordan Alvarez, for all the injuries that this is a guy who's had surgery on both knees. He's had ailments along the way. We've never seen him be bad. Now, Tyler pointed out very smartly that, like, believe it or not, he did have a stretch about a month where he was this bad, even last season when he was one of the best hitters in baseball. So let's not overreact too much to the fact that his line right now is stuck where it is because he's been hurt, makes it look worse than maybe it actually is. Mm-hmm. But the point is it a good thing that the Astros are where they are with essentially nothing from Yordan? Or do I have to keep being worried about this because we know that the best version of the Astros features Yordan Alvarez prominently, and if we don't know when he's going to be coming back or when he's going to be making a difference, that's a massive deal. He's one of the most important hitters in the sport, and for him to be dealing with this hand issue that does not seem to be any close to being resolved is not good.
There's also an element of this that the Astros have done a bad job at either communicating or handling this injury. That is not the first time this has happened. Remember last year, when Kyle Tucker got hurt and they said, oh, he's got a bone bruise. And then they were like, oh, he broke his shin. It was a shin fracture. Two very different injuries. And
similar vibe, though. Yeah.
Similar vibe. Based on what Chandler wrote, like, it feels that maybe if they had known something was broken in his hand, he wouldn't have taken BP the other day, and that taking BP exacerbated the issue and maybe has him out longer than he would have otherwise. And that's really bad and kind of unacceptable.
Yep.
Maybe we're missing something there, but it just doesn't smell right to me, and is the type of thing that I would say is an institutional that can happen.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Well said. So we'll see. Would love to have Jordan back. He is a very special hitter that is baseball's better when Jordan's doing cool stuff.
Other boo-boos around baseball, which is what I want to call injury check-in segment from now on.
All right.
Who's the boo-boo list? Forget the IL, the BL, the BBL. That's not what that means. All right. Mark Vientos to the IL with I believe it's a hamstring issue. Up comes Ronnie Mauricio, who was tracking for a while alongside Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos as this tall, athletic, powerful infield prospect who, can he play defense? Can
he have an approach that is sustainable in the major leagues?
TBD.
We still don't really know.
His timeline was delayed because he tore his ACL in the Dominican Winter League in a really devastating, unfortunate fashion. I talked to Ronnie Mo for a while in camp this year. Delightful gent. Really,
I'm rooting for this
cool
guy.
cat.
He's way high on the list of just players that fascinated me coming into the season because of where he fit on the roster, because of what he showed before the injury, because of the talent that he has, the flashes that he shows, which is like even in his brief major league debut, hitting the ball like 117 or something. Like he has freaky tools, switch hitter, amazing athlete. So I don't know where he fits. I hope that he can take advantage of this opportunity. He had been destroying the ball in AAA for the last couple of weeks. And so in some ways he earned this opportunity. Whether or not he would have gotten it this fast if he interested to get hurt, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to watching him. He's just a fun player to watch, even though it's not really all there quite yet.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio as 3 bottles of salad dressing in my fridge that are all a third full. And it's like, I wish I could just consolidate this into one.
But they're 3 different dressings. So you can't.
But they're like all different enough that you can't pour them into the same bottle. And also you can't combine human beings.
You also are not sure like which dressing you like the most just yet.
It's like, is this expired? Is this one good? You're like, there's stuff to like here.
We haven't even really tried the Ronnie Mauricio one yet.
Right.
Like Vientos, I mean, that was...
I thought I liked it.
The most. Last year, it was like,
easily.
What do you mean? Obviously, I'm
in
using
October,
this
I was pouring it all over my salad.
Right. But now it's like, maybe that one's not as good.
I don't understand.
Interesting.
Other IL
strange
stuff.
Analogy. Yeah, other injuries. Yankees.
Other stuff
some good news and bad news. I don't know if we have any more salad dressing comparisons. Luke Weaver is indeed injured. Hopefully not a long-term thing for the Yankees closer. Devin Williams, bit of a shaky first ride back into the closer role, but he did get the job done against Cleveland last night. More exciting is that Jazz Chisholm is back. He homered in his return and
playing third.
Oh, really? I didn't even think about that. That's funny. And yeah, Jazz is fun. And again, this Yankees offense has been awesome without him. So this is another, again, you don't need Jazz to be hitting like an all-star to be making a difference in this lineup at the bottom half. So I'm excited to have Jazz back.
Detroit Tigers, Parker Meadows is back, center fielder. That's interesting because Javier Baez has been playing center field and has been great out there. Could he move back to shortstop? Trey Sweeney, who's been their shortstop, Zach McKinstry's played there a little bit too, has been bad. Trey Sweeney has not been hitting. Do they move Baez back there?
So Baez, first couple games of the series against the White Sox, Baez did play short in one of the games, which he had done just a few times in April. And then last night he played third with Meadows back in center and Sweeney back at shortstop. So this is just like, because Sweeney has been a pretty good shortstop, he just hasn't been hitting. The fact that Baez has like played his way back into being like, guys, awesome. Yeah, of course I should be back at shortstop. If they believe in Meadows, who was one of their better players last year, that would be an amazing way for this to go. But we'll see.
Los Angeles Dodgers, Evan Phillips getting Tommy John. That's unfortunate. We love Evan Phillips, one of our favorite guys in the game. He just threw a lot of sweepers really hard with a lot of
That'll
spin
do it
for a while. And the elbow went kablooey. He hopefully will be back for the Dodgers 2026 third consecutive World Series championship run next October. Thoughts out to Evan. Great dude. I hope he's back soon. Tyler Glasnow, just weird, man. Just had some GBS, some general body soreness the other day after throwing. Who has the most starts this year of the following four pitchers? Clayton Kershaw, Roki Sasaki, Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell. Your guess, dear listener, is as good as mine. And then the last update from the Boo Boo list is Shane McClanahan is throwing a bullpen or just threw a bullpen. He's tracking to come back in late July after a really scary looking, I believe, nerve issue that happened late in spring training. Just remember, when this guy's cooking, he's one of the best pitchers in the world. He started the All-Star game in 2022 for the AL opposite Clayton Kershaw. Like, this is a dude. Hopefully Shane can come back and be a big deal again. One of my favorite moments from spring training this year was talking to Shane, who's been on our show before, about like, what did you do when you were hurt? Like, how did you fill your time? And he goes, I perfected my bolognese recipe. And then I texted him and asked him for the recipe, and he said no. He said it was secret.
State secret.
Can you believe that? Classic
bolognese too. I mean, that's about as, straight as, like, that is as mainstream as it gets, but maybe not. Like, what do we think? Do you think he's continued to perfect it over the last couple months?
I don't know.
Because you were talking about it in relation to his, Tommy John rehab. This has been a little bit different.
Yeah.
How much bolognese has he eaten? Well, we'll have to ask him next time we see Shane McClanahan. All right. We have one more topic that we want to get to. I know the show's running a little long, but this is timely. Let's begin with the Women's College World Series, because that is what is happening tonight, Jake Mintz. Texas against Texas Tech, two teams that have never won the Women's College World Series. And this is a fantastic championship series for so many reasons. I previewed it a little bit last week, and I talked about Najee Kennedy, who has indeed carried the Texas Tech Red Raiders to the championship series, past Oklahoma. But Texas is an awesome story as well. Their head coach, New Zealand native Mike White, who has been one of the most, he's just an awesome coach and an awesome personality. He's been in Texas for a while. He was at Oregon before then. Texas has come really close to winning the Women's College World Series. They've been runner-up last year and in 2022. They have been to the Women's College World Series a bunch this century, but they have never quite gotten it done. And now they have this opportunity against an in-state rival, no longer a conference rival, since Texas has seceded to the SEC and Texas Tech remains in the Big 12. But what a fun matchup! Now them against Najee Kennedy, who is the face of college softball, as I mentioned last week. Transfers from Stanford to Texas Tech, $1 million NIL package, which of course gets the headlines. But for them to end up to get her to go to Lubbock, a program that had zero history whatsoever. They had never been to the Women's College World Series. They had barely even been in the postseason. Their head coach in the first year, Jerry Glasgow, who, I mean, what a story for him. He is someone who has been a very relevant and fascinating figure in the softball world over the last couple of decades. The story with him that you may have seen over the past week is that his daughter, who played softball, he had a few daughters that played softball and coached with him. His daughter, Jerry Ann, passed away in a car accident in 2019 when they were both at Louisiana Lafayette before he came to Texas Tech. And this became very relevant because they played Oklahoma this past week and became the team to eliminate Oklahoma after they had won 4 straight national championships. Sam Landry was the best pitcher on Oklahoma. She had transferred from Louisiana Lafayette and had a relationship with Jerry's late daughter, and her name was on her glove, and it was a very emotional thing. And Jerry Glasgow was very open, saying, like, this is the last person I would ever want to have to play against to go to the championship series, and that's just how it worked out. It was the ultimate kind of bittersweet moment for both of those individuals. Sam Landry, of course, as a fifth-year senior, and Jerry Glasgow making it to the College World Series finals. But it's an awesome story. Glasgow's awesome. Nigel Kennedy's awesome. Shea Langelier's sister is on Texas Tech. If you're interested in MLB connections, Alexa Langelier, she's one of their best players. They have a lot of, there's some Texas seniors, of course, who have come really close over the last few years, and they're going to have a chance here to finally win. It's awesome television. There have been a lot of great moments in Oklahoma City, and I know you're looking forward to watching. I know you ran into Taylor McGregor, who of course does dugout reporting for the Cubs. She was doing some ESPN coverage for the Women's College World Series this year, and yeah, it's great TV, and we can't recommend this enough.
The Men's College World Series has not started yet. It will kick off in a week and change, but we have the Super Regionals coming up this weekend. We talked a lot about the regional weekend that we saw last week. Little Rock took LSU to the wire. Clap it up for the underdogs. They gave it their best go, but they couldn't pull it off. Murray State, though, knocking off Ole Miss in Oxford as the 4 seed to go to the Super Regional. Congratulations to the Racers. Really incredible. There will be Super Regionals this weekend. Can't wait to watch it. They'll start on Friday. Tune in for that. One thing, though, that was very bad was the head coach of Wake Forest, Tom Walter, getting caught dropping a homophobic slur on the broadcast in a game against Tennessee to get Pride Month started on the wrong track. Tom Walter, this is bad. He apologized, and the university released a statement. And as I'm sure many of you could imagine, I would say the world of college baseball is in some ways like even less welcoming to people who aren't straight white dudes than pro baseball. And a lot of that has to do with, I would say, demographics of the sport being more predominantly in the South, where I would say we have bigger issues in this country with that. Not to generalize, but I think that is a dynamic that does exist. And I was both discouraged and encouraged to see some of the responses. Like, obviously, there were some just horrible things in the replies. But I was encouraged just by a number of prominent college baseball writers and reporters being pretty vocal about how this was not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree
this
with
happens
that.
once a year now, which is a freaking terrible bummer. And it's not that complicated. When this stuff happens, it makes people in this world feel less a part of the baseball community, and that sucks.
Yeah, and right. Unfortunately, we had conversation about a similar situation last year with Jaron Duran. Of course, what's so disappointing about this, right, is that it is a person in a leadership position who, again, it's so unacceptable. It's so like, disappointing. It's so reckless. It's so different, right? I mean, this doesn't make the Duran thing any better. And Duran's an adult. It's not like he's a 15-year-old kid, but this is someone that people are trusting to set a tone. Like, it sets an example as a human being. And this mistake, humans make mistakes. This doesn't mean that every good thing that Tom Walter has done is erased. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it's just a reminder that there is still so much work to be done, to where it's the same thing with the reason it's the same as Duran is it's like, this only happens if you are already in a position to feel okay saying this. That doesn't mean saying it all the time. It just means that, like, you wouldn't end up in a position to where you're accidentally saying this in some sort of outburst unless you have heard it more than you probably should be in 2025. That is, I think, the takeaway. Sure. And so it is extremely disappointing. I'm glad that Wake Forest did not wait around to come out and say something about it. And it sucks. And so, and especially in a weekend like this where you want to be excited and talk about college baseball, and we want to promote this space. We want to say, turn this on, watch this. This is extremely discouraging when, if someone ends up seeing this as part of their introduction to college baseball. So that's all I have to say on that.
All right. No more podcasting.
Yeah. Not the most fun note to end on. We will have more, hopefully, positive college baseball discussion next week, and on Friday, maybe ahead of the Super Regionals. But turn on the softball, enjoy that. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to TJ Brassel for producing. Thank you to Andrew Hartz for producing. Oh, baby, Hartz back in the mix. That's exciting. You can email us at baseballbarbacast@gmail.com. Let us know. We'll do some emails soon. Thank you all for sending us your favorite words. We'll get to those in the near future. Talk to you on Friday. Bye, everybody.